The restaurant was called Belmont's, one of those places where the prices weren't listed on the menu because if you had to ask, you probably couldn't afford to eat there. Soft lighting from wall sconces created an intimate atmosphere. White tablecloths, crystal glasses, the quiet murmur of successful people having important conversations. Emma Walsh sat at a small table near the window, her hands gripping her phone like a lifeline. She wore a cream-colored sweater dress she'd borrowed from her roommate, her blonde hair falling in careful waves she'd spent an hour creating. At 26, she was a graduate student working 3 part-time jobs to pay for her education and social work. She had exactly $43 in her checking account until her next paycheck on Friday. 5 of those dollars were folded in her pocket for this dinner. Her best friend Rachel had set her up on this blind date. His name is Derek. He's a lawyer. Very successful. And he specifically asked to meet at Belmont's. Emma, this could be good for you. When was the last time you went on a real date? Emma had wanted to say no. She didn't belong in places like Belmont's. But Rachel had been so excited, so hopeful that Emma had agreed. Just this once, maybe Derek would be kind. Maybe he wouldn't notice she was ordering the cheapest thing on the menu. Maybe this would be the start of something good. Derek was now 20 minutes late. Emma checked her phone again. No messages. She texted him twice. Nothing. At the table behind her, about 10 feet away, sat another person dining alone. His name was Andrew Morrison, and at 38, he was the CEO of Morrison Technologies, a software company worth $200 million. He was in town for a board meeting tomorrow, and had stopped at Belmont's because his assistant had made a reservation, and it seemed easier than finding somewhere else. Andrew had noticed Emma the moment she walked in. Not because she was beautiful, though she was, but because of the way she carried herself. Nervous, out of place. Like someone who'd wandered into the wrong party but was too polite to leave. He'd watched her check her phone repeatedly, watched her face shift from hopeful to worried to resigned. He recognized that expression. He'd worn it himself once, many years ago, before success had insulated him from rejection. Andrew was a single father. His wife had died 4 years ago in a car accident, leaving him alone with their daughter Sophie, who was now 9. In the years since, he'd thrown himself into work, into being both parents, into building something secure for his child. Dating had seemed impossible, unnecessary, a complication he didn't need. But lately, Sophie had started asking questions. Dad, why don't you have a girlfriend? Everyone else's parents have someone. And Andrew had realized that in protecting himself from loss, he'd also shut himself off from connection. A waiter approached Emma's table. Miss, would you like to order while you wait? Emma's face flushed. Actually, could I just get a glass of water? I'm waiting for someone. Of course. The waiter left, but Andrew saw the look in his eyes. Pity mixed with impatience. This was a high-end restaurant. Tables were valuable. A woman sitting alone, ordering nothing, was taking up space that could be filled by paying customers. 5 more minutes passed. Then 10. Emma's hands were shaking now as she typed another message into her phone. Andrew couldn't stand it anymore. He stood up, walked over to her table, and cleared his throat gently. Emma looked up, startled. She saw a man in his late 30s, wearing a gray suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. His expression was kind, concerned. I'm sorry to intrude, Andrew said, but I couldn't help noticing you're waiting for someone who doesn't seem to be coming. Are you all right? Emma's eyes filled with tears that she blinked back fiercely. I'm fine, thank you. He's just running. Late? How late? 35 minutes. Andrew's jaw tightened. What kind of man left someone waiting like this? May I sit down for a moment? Emma hesitated, then nodded. Andrew pulled out the chair across from her and sat. My name is Andrew, and I think your date isn't coming. You don't know that, Emma said, but her voice lacked conviction. You're right, I don't. But I do know what it feels like to be somewhere you don't belong, waiting for something that isn't going to happen. He paused. I also know that a woman who gets stood up at a place like Belmont's shouldn't have to sit here alone, feeling humiliated while everyone watches. Emma's chin trembled. I can't afford to eat here. I only brought $5. I thought he was paying. That probably makes me sound terrible, but I'm a student and I work 3 jobs and I barely have enough for groceries this week. My friend set this up and she was so excited and I didn't want to disappoint her by saying no. But I should have. I should have known better. The words tumbled out in a rush, fueled by embarrassment and relief at having someone to talk to. Andrew felt something shift in his chest. This young woman, struggling to make ends meet, had come here hoping for connection, and some careless man had crushed that hope without a second thought. Here's what's going to happen, Andrew said firmly. You're going to have dinner with me instead. A proper dinner, whatever you want. We'll talk, get to know each other, and by the end of the night, maybe this terrible date will turn into something good after all. Emma shook her head. I can't let you do that. I don't even know you. Then we'll fix that. I'm Andrew Morrison. I'm 38. I have a 9-year-old daughter named Sophie. My wife passed away 4 years ago. I run a software company. I'm terrible at cooking, and I haven't been on a date in so long I've forgotten how it works. Your turn. Despite everything, Emma smiled. Emma Walsh, 26. Graduate student studying social work. I volunteer at a homeless shelter. I'm drowning in student loans, and this is the first date I've been on in 2 years. Then we're both out of practice, Andrew said, which means we should probably start with dinner and see where it goes. What do you say? Emma looked at him, searching his face for the catch. Men didn't do things like this without wanting something in return, but all she saw in Andrew's eyes was kindness and something that looked like understanding. Okay, she said quietly. Thank you. Andrew signaled the waiter and moved his place, setting to Emma's table. They ordered, and as they waited for their food, they talked. Emma told him about her work at the shelter, about the people she met who'd fallen through society's cracks, about her dream of opening a community center that provided not just food and housing, but education and job training. About how impossible that dream felt when she could barely afford her own rent. Andrew told her about Sophie, about the challenge of raising a daughter alone, about the guilt of working too much and the fear of working too little, about how success had given him everything except what he needed most, which was someone to share it with. By the time dessert arrived, they'd talked for 2 hours. The restaurant had filled and emptied around them, but neither noticed. I should tell you something, Andrew said as they finished their coffee. I'm not looking for anything casual. I have a daughter to think about. If I'm going to date someone, it has to be real. It has to be someone who wants to be part of our lives, not just mine. Someone Sophie can trust. Emma met his eyes steadily. I'm not looking for casual either. I've wasted too much time on people who didn't value me. I want something real. Something that matters. Andrew paid the bill, leaving a tip that made the waiter's eyes widen. Outside, under the streetlights, they stood facing each other. Can I see you again? Andrew asked. Yes, Emma said. I'd like that. Tomorrow? Sophie has a piano recital at 3. You could come, meet her, see if you like us in real life, not just over dinner. Emma smiled. I'll be there. The next day, Emma sat in the audience of Sophie's school auditorium, watching a little girl with brown hair and her father's kind eyes play a simple piece on the piano. Sophie made mistakes, but she kept going, finishing with a flourish and a huge grin. Andrew caught Emma's eye from where he sat in the front row. He mouthed, "Thank you for coming," and Emma felt something warm bloom in her chest. After the recital, Andrew introduced them. Sophie studied Emma with serious eyes. Dad says you help people who don't have homes. I try to, Emma said. It's important work. That's nice, Sophie said thoughtfully. We have a big house. We should help too. 6 months later, the Morrison house had become an unofficial hub for Emma's community work. Sophie helped pack food boxes on weekends. Andrew used his business connections to find job placements for shelter residents. Emma moved into the guest room, then into Andrew's room, then into their shared life with a naturalness that felt like coming home. 2 years after that terrible blind date at Belmont's, Andrew and Emma were married. The ceremony was small, held at the community center they'd opened together using Andrew's investment and Emma's vision. The guests were a mix of tech executives and former shelter residents, all of them celebrating a love that had started with $5 and a blind date that never happened. At the reception, Andrew stood to give a toast. I came to Belmont's that night planning to eat alone and get back to work. Instead, I met someone who taught me that the best things in life happen when we're brave enough to reach out to someone who's hurting. Emma was alone and scared that night, and she let me sit with her. She trusted me when she had no reason to. That trust changed my life and Sophie's life. So here's to blind dates that don't show up, to $5 budgets, and to the courage it takes to say yes when someone offers you kindness. Emma stood and took the microphone, tears streaming down her face. And here's to the man who saw someone waiting alone and decided she was worth his time, who taught his daughter that wealth means nothing if you don't use it to lift others up, who turned the worst date of my life into the best thing that ever happened to me. They kissed while everyone cheered, and Sophie shouted finally from her place of honor at the head table, making everyone laugh. Years later, when Sophie asked her parents how they met, they would tell her the truth, about the $5 bill, about the date who never came, about the man at the next table who saw someone hurting and chose to help. Sometimes, Emma would say, the person you're meant to find isn't the one you're looking for. They're the one who finds you when you've given up hope. If this story warmed your heart, please like and share it with someone who needs reminded that kindness to strangers can change lives. Subscribe for more stories about finding love in unexpected moments. And comment below about a time someone reached out to you when you needed it most. Your story might give someone else hope today.